gosh, this is really your Snorlax?
It seems bigger than life when you see it up close.
Wake up! Snorlax, I came to see you! Pika Pika!
Every Pokemon has an ability. It's one of those mechanics that you kind of just take for granted. After a while, you catch something. You glance at its ability, and most of the time, it makes your Pokemon better. In some way, Intimidate lowers the opponent's attack. Levitate gives you a ground immunity static, can paralyze anything that touches you. Abilities are supposed to be this extra little gift that makes your Pokemon feel unique and special. But here's the thing, not all abilities were created equally. Some of them are actively terrible, some of them do literally nothing in battle, and a few of them are so bad that they make you wonder if Game Freak was having a rough day at the office. So today we're going to go through the worst, most useless, and most forgotten abilities across all 9 generations. And more importantly, we're going to fix them because every single one of these abilities has potential. It's just buried under years of neglect and questionable game design. Let's start with the elephant in the room, or I guess the sloth in the room. The 3 abilities that were intentionally designed to be terrible, Truant, Defeatist, and Slow Start. Now I get why these exist. Slaking has a base stat total of 670, which is basically legendary tier. So without Truant, it would be an early game monster that demolishes everything. Archeops has a massive 567 base stat total, and Regigigas sits at 670 as well. So Game Freak gave each of them an ability that acts as a leash to keep them in check. And I respect the logic behind it. The problem is, the leash is way too tight. Truant makes Slaking skip every other turn, which in a fast-paced, competitive environment means you're essentially playing with half a Pokemon you hit once, and then you sit there doing nothing while your opponent sets up or switches for free. The classic workaround is to use Skill Swap in doubles to dump Truant onto your opponent, which is hilarious. But that's not really Slaking being good. That's just Truant being annoying. So here's my fix. Instead of skipping every other turn, what if Truant halved the power of consecutive same moves? So if you use Return twice in a row, the second one is weaker. But if you alternate between Return and Earthquake, you're fine. This keeps the flavor of Slaking being lazy. It doesn't want to do the same thing twice in a row, but it stops punishing the player for simply existing. Defeatist halves Archeops' attack and special attack the moment it drops below 50% HP, which means its 140 attack effectively becomes 70. That's worse than Eradicate, a fully evolved fossil Pokemon hitting softer than Eradicate. You can see the problem. My fix is straightforward. Lower the activation threshold to 25% HP instead of 50. It's still a drawback. You still have to be careful, but it doesn't turn Archeops into dead weight the second it takes a solid hit. And then there's Slow Start. Regigigas has its attack and speed halved for the first 5 turns. And if you switch out the counter resets, you basically have to survive 5 turns of being a punching bag, with legendary stats that you can't use even with Protect and Substitute stalling. That out in a modern power-crept meta is borderline impossible. My fix is to reduce it to 3 turns, and only have speed. Not attack. The idea is that Regigigas is literally waking up from a long slumber, so it moves slowly at first, but there's no reason it can't hit hard from the get-go. It's an ancient titan, not a kitten. Now let's talk about an ability that doesn't get as much hate as those 3, but honestly might be even more frustrating to deal with. Rivalry, introduced in Gen 4. What Rivalry does is boost your damage by 25% if the opponent is the same gender as your Pokemon, which sounds okay until you learn that it also reduces your damage by 25% if the opponent is the opposite gender and does nothing against genderless Pokemon, so you've got a roughly 1 in 3 chance of the ability helping you, 1 in 3 chance of it hurting you, and 1 in 3 chance of it doing absolutely nothing. And the Pokemon that have this ability aren't exactly slouches. We're talking about Haxorus and Luxray Pokemon that need every bit of damage they can get. So why gamble your attack stat on a coin flip? My fix is simple. Remove the penalty. Just boost damage against the same gender and leave it neutral. Otherwise, Rivalry is supposed to be motivation, not weakness. A rival pushes you to be better. They don't make you worse. Moving into the hidden abilities, and this is where things get genuinely sad, because hidden abilities are supposed to be special rewards for dedicated players, except some of them are actual insults. Flare Boost and Toxic Boost were introduced in Gen 5 as hidden abilities for the Drifblim line and Zangoose, respectively. Flare Boost gives you a 50% special attack boost when burned, which sounds cool for Drifblim since it's a special attacker anyway, except you're also taking burn damage every turn. And Drifblim's special attack isn't even that impressive to begin with. Plus, Unburden exists on the same Pokemon, which is just flatly better. Toxic Boost gives Zangoose a 50% attack boost when poisoned, making it a glass cannon that's literally killing itself every turn. And the worst part is if you wanted these abilities in Gen 5, you had to use the Pokemon Dream World, which shut down over a decade ago, so these abilities are permanently unobtainable in their introductory games. That's not a hidden ability, that's a buried one. But my favorite example of a terrible hidden ability has to be Runaway being given as the hidden ability to Pokemon like Oddish, Venonat, Ponyta, and Doduo. Runaway lets you flee from wild battles. And that's it. It does nothing in trainer battles, nothing competitively, nothing in any situation that matters. And this is supposed to be the rare secret ability that you go out of your way to find. Imagine hunting through the dream world, finding a special Oddish, getting excited about what rare ability it might have, and it's Runaway. It can run away. That's the reward. Before we get to the signature abilities, I want to talk about two abilities that I think are in their own category of bad, because they don't just fail to help you, they actively work against you. Normalize is Delcatty's ability, and what it does is turn all of your moves into normal type moves, which means you lose every single bit of type coverage you have. You can't hit rock or steel types for super effective damage, and worst of all, you can't hit ghost types at all. They're completely immune to everything you do. I mean, at least give the normal type moves a power boost if you're going to strip away all your coverage, something like Pixelate does for fairy types, where normal moves get retyped and get a 1.2 times boost. That would make Normalize an actual strategy instead of a punishment. And then there's color change on Kecleon, which changes your type to whatever move just hit you. The idea is that Kecleon is a chameleon, so it adapts to its surroundings. But in practice, it means your opponent gets to choose what type you are if they hit you with a fighting move. Now, you're fighting type and weak to psychic and flying and fairy, which they can just hit you with next turn. You're not adapting. You're just cycling through weaknesses while your opponent picks you apart like a menu. Let's move on to signature abilities because these should be the coolest, most unique abilities in the game, but a few of them are complete disasters. Merciless is Toxapex's signature ability, and what it does is guarantee critical hits against poison targets, which sounds absolutely terrifying, except Toxapex has a base 53 attack and 63 special attack. It's one of the best defensive walls in the entire game. It does not care about critical hits, it wants Regenerator. The ability itself is actually fantastic, it's just on the completely wrong Pokemon. My fix would be to give Merciless to more Pokemon who can actually use it offensively. Seviper, Salazzle, Crobat, any poison type that actually wants to deal damage would love this ability. Then there's Ballfetch Yamper's signature ability. It retrieves the first failed Pokeball you throw in battle, which means it does absolutely nothing in trainer battles, which is 100% of competitive play and roughly 95% of any normal playthrough, since Yamper is a corgi. A herding dog, my fix would be to turn it into a retrieval ability that recovers a consumed item like a berry or focus sash after 2 turns. The dog fetches your stuff back. That's what dogs do. It's thematic, and it actually does something. While we're talking about weather and terrain, I have to mention Grass Pelt Go-Goat's ability that boosts its defense by 50%, but only while grassy terrain is active. The problem is, Go-Goat can't set grassy terrain on its own. It needs a teammate like Rillaboom just to activate its own ability. And even then, a 50% defense boost is something it could just get from bulk up without relying on terrain that will expire in 5 turns. My fix would be to make Grass Pelt activate under any terrain, not just grassy, or better yet, have it set grassy terrain, automatically. When Go-Goat gets hit by a water move, its body acts as soil that nurtures growth when watered. That's thematic, and it gives Go-Goat actual self-sufficiency. I also want to touch on a few abilities that lived in complete obscurity for most of their existence. Illuminate was introduced in Gen 3, and all it did was increase wild encounter rates, meaning in battle, it did literally nothing for 20 years. Pokemon like Starmie and Lantern were stuck with an ability that actively made exploring more annoying outside of battle and contributed 0 inside of it. Game Freak finally buffed it in Gen 9 to prevent accuracy drops, which is great, but 20 years of doing nothing is kind of unforgivable. Honey Gather is in a similar boat. It lets Pokemon like Combee maybe pick up honey after a battle. But honey is cheap and easily bought, and the ability provides zero combat utility. I think if Honey Gather lowered the opponent's speed on Switch and like the Pokemon is leaving a sticky trail, it would at least have a reason to exist in a fight. And then there's the one I've been saving for last, the ability that is quite literally the most forgotten in the entire franchise, because it doesn't even exist. Cacophony, found in the code of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire Cacophony, was ability number 76 out of the 77 abilities introduced in Gen 3, and based on its description it would have been identical to Soundproof, which gives immunity to sound-based moves like Uproar and Hyper Voice. Now you might think, well, that's obvious, they removed it. Because two abilities doing the same thing is pointless and sure, that makes sense, except Airlock and Cloud9 both exist and do the exact same thing as each other, so that reasoning doesn't fully hold up. It was most likely intended for the Whismur line based on their design and a few Pokemon cards of Exploud. But the truth is, nobody actually knows why Cacophony was cut. It's the only ability to have ever been completely scrapped from the game, and no official explanation has ever been given. But here's where I think Game Freak missed a massive opportunity. What if Cacophony wasn't just a copy of Soundproof? What if instead of blocking sound moves, it reflected them back at the opponent? Whismur, Loudred, and Exploud are all about making noise. So the idea that their own Cacophony is so loud, it sends sound attacks bouncing right back makes perfect sense. It would give the line a unique niche that Soundproof doesn't cover, and it would mean that after over 20 years of being nothing but ghost data, in a Game Boy Advance cartridge, Cacophony would finally have a reason to exist. And I think that's really the point of all of this. None of these abilities are irredeemable. They're not broken beyond repair. They just need someone to look at them and think about what they could be instead of what they are right now. Every Pokemon with a bad ability isn't a lost cause. It's an untapped idea, a concept that Game Freak started and never finished. And maybe that's true outside of Pokemon too. Sometimes the things about yourself that seem the most useless, the traits you think hold you back, they're not flaws. They're just abilities that haven't found their purpose. Yet the potential was always there. Someone just needs to see it. But also, Game Freak, please just fix Ball Fetch. I'm begging you, it's a corgi, it deserves better.